Welcome to my apiary. I just wanted you to see this. I wish you could feel it. It's cold. It's minus 37 out here today. It's noon, and it's really, really bright and sunny. I'm facing north, and I can hardly open my eyes. The snow is so very, very bright. But what you might not think, you might think minus 37, and that's C, but I mean F, it's really very similar. You might try to imagine that, and it's bad. It's cold. It's dangerous. It could be fatal if you're caught out in this. But you know, I'm wearing this is a decent jacket. It's not what I'd call a winter jacket or really warm jacket, and I'm not wearing gloves, not wearing a hat. I can feel the heat of the sun on my face. The sun is getting high enough in the sky that we feel that now. And just in the time I'm talking here, my fingers are just, there's a tiny breeze, so that's what makes you cold. And the air is so dry here that it doesn't chill you. It'll freeze you, but it doesn't chill you. So I just want to share that with you, you know, because we don't often get, you know, minus 37, minus 40. Here we go. We got a treat here coming down the road. There's been so much snow lately that that this guy can't keep up. That's what I get for my tax dollars right there. Well, I get the opportunity to take my garbage to the dump. I'll take it myself though, in my little green truck, or sometimes my big silver truck. Either one. So anyway, I want to get in the sun again. It's cold. So yeah, cold, very, very cold. And guess what? We're getting another blizzard in 2 days. Yay! More snow. That's what we need. We have had, I think they said we've had twice as much snow as we normally get all year, or something like that. We've had a lot of snow. I can't keep up. Every time I clear snow, it just snows again and it all blows in. I try to keep the driveway clear for emergency purposes. I try to keep behind the vehicles clear so that we can get out if we need to. And it's just been one of those years. So now my fingers are starting to get cold, and I'm going to go in the wood shop and get some work done. This is, I believe, my last glue up of this big plywood stitching process. This is a really long one. So what I need to do is, this is a long strip that's as wide as a pallet, and I just need to cross cut it. And my measuring means there's 5 covers here. At least enough plywood for 5 covers, and of course there's a lot more lumber goes into a cover than just that. There's a whack more covers here. There's 25 actually here. And way over in the corner here is a pallet that has 60 covers on it. So that means I've got 90 covers out of my many days of work to put this plywood together. It doesn't mean I have 90 covers. I have enough pieces for 90 covers. Then there's another 100 there to put together for the customer. I have a lot of parts to cut before I can even start assembling though. But all the end cleats, all of the shims, I have some of the shims already cut. And also all the parts for the pallets. There's 100 pallets to make. There's 200 covers to build, plus the 90 that I put together out of pieces. So that's a lot of work. Better get busy. Time is fleeting here. So here's the result of many hours and days of ripping lumber. I have all of my pieces ripped to at least width and thickness. And I say thickness because some of it reclaimed lumber, and I had to cut down pieces to either 1/2 inch or 3/4. So anyway, there's runners for pallets here, there's risers for pallets, there's cleats for covers, there's shims for pallets, and shims for covers, and shims for pallets, and all kinds of parts. So I have all the parts ready, I believe. I have all of the plywood ready. The plywood is for the covers is in the shed. The plywood for the pallets is here. There's a lot of it. That's enough plywood for 115 pallets. There's 100 going to the customer, and those top 15 are mine. So, and the reason for this concentration on getting all of my ripping done is my shop is rather small, and my table saw does assembly table duty. And so I need to get everything ripped, everything done on the table saw before I start assembly. I do have, well, I have my miter saw here, which I haven't been using because I've been using my radial arm saw, which is over there, which does a really nice job of cross cutting. But I need to use a table saw for one final operation, and that is to cut these. I need to cut 2 rabbets in each one of these pieces. This is the center shim of the pallet, and this center shim will receive this U-clip in each end, but I prefer to not have the U-clip stick up like this. So what I do is I'll run a 2-inch by I believe it's 3/16 deep little rabbet in here. It's called a rabbet because it'll have only 2 sides. It's be open on the end. So I need to set my table saw up to do that. In order to run those rabbets on the end of those pieces, I need to use my dado stack. It's a couple of kind of heavy duty blades with some chippers in the center. There's spacers there too. You'll see that in a second. Just thought I'd show you how this changeover goes in a saw stop. It's a little different than many table saws. You take off this blade. Oop, the wrench backwards. Undo that. This blade has cut so much pine that it's very dirty. Pine is very sappy. A lot of pitch in pine. A lot of pitch in a lot of woods, but you can see how messy this blade is. It really needs a good cleaning and maybe even a sharpening. But that's okay. It's done its bit for King and Country. It has ripped many lineal feet of lumber. So take the riving knife out. For dado cuts, particularly non-through cuts, you don't need a riving knife, and you can't run a riving knife. The dado blade is an 8-inch blade. The standard blade is a 10-inch blade. So if you had that riving knife in there, you'd never do a non-through cut. And a dado blade cut is really never a through cut. Okay, I just pulled that brake off of there. I pulled the little key out of it, and then the brake, there's electrical connection there when you slide it in. And so this is the brake that activates. There's a very heavy spring right here, and when you touch the blade, that spring is activated, and this part with the holes in it goes into the blade, and the blade hits it and is stopped. 5 milliseconds, I think, is what they say. Maybe less than 5 milliseconds. So my dado brake is here, and you can see it's slightly different because it's for an 8-inch blade, and it's wider because it's for a wider blade. Okay, so it's just a bit of a different break. So you need to change that. I've developed a little method where I don't even have to look in there to do it. There's 2 pins that it slides in. Slides on this pin and then on that pin, and then the little key goes in this hole and then locks in. Okay, so I just stick my fingers in it like that, and I can find that top pin with my thumb. Is right under the clamp for the riving knife. I can't see it, but I can feel it with my thumb, and then I stick that top one on there and move the brake a little bit until it goes on the bottom one. Then I stick the key in, use my finger to find that hole right there, stick the key in, try not to drop the key into the bottom of the saw again, and that's it. Put that one in the box for safekeeping. These are well over $100 for me, so I need to take care of them. Again, not going to run a riving knife or dado cuts, so this lever just goes down. That's just the tightening clamp for the riving knife. It just sits there. Okay, so now, because I'm making a rabbet, and again, a rabbet extends right off the end of a piece of wood. Okay, a dado is a I was going to say a groove, but a dado isn't a groove, but a dado is a groove. This miter slot, you can think of that as a dado. Okay, so there's something that goes down in there. You can see it has 3 sides. You can see it has a bottom and then 2 sides. Well, a rabbet has 2 sides because it extends off the end of the wood. And because of that, the size of my dado stack, how wide my dado stack is not really that important. Okay, these have a direction and left and right, and you can see, I don't know if you can see, this needs cleaning too, but alternating teeth here, this one's flat, this one is beveled, and the sharp point of the bevel goes to the outside. Okay, and also the tooth is flush with that side. It's not flush with this side. Okay, so that goes on there. Put this back together as I work. Now we get into the chippers and spacers. So I'll take a spacer first, put that on here, and then a chipper. And so that chipper just has 1 tooth here. And you can, I think you can run that either between the teeth or straddling the teeth on the blade. Either way. I think either way will work just fine. I actually prefer to run it between the teeth. I don't think it matters, but that's just the way I prefer to run it. So I'll put another spacer, another chipper. I have to offset the chippers because the teeth are wider than the chipper, so they'll contact each other if I don't. So another spacer here, and then another chipper. And you can run the chippers like that. You could put this chipper here, whatever you want. It won't run into this first one. And there's a bunch of little spacers here. They're very thin, and they're kind of messy. They're kind of hard to deal with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to forgo those. Okay, leave those alone. Now put the outside blade on here, and respecting where those teeth are with that chipper, because that blade is now, there's no spacer between that outside blade and that last chipper. Now with the standard 10-inch grip or crosscut blade, you have what's called a stiffener. It's just kind of a big washer. It's rather heavy actually, Dado blade, you don't need that, and often you can't use it because you can see, I don't know if you can see that, the arbor isn't really very long. So you just go with the nut against the blade. You don't need a stiffener. These blades are far heavier than a standard rip or crosscut blade. And tighten it up. Nice and snug. Okay. Then you can also see I have a different throat plate here. This one won't work because it has a narrow slot in it. And this the dado one. Then the dado one, I think it comes with no slot at all, and then you have to cut through it when you want to make dado cuts. The rabbet, I think, is 3/16 deep. It's not very deep. Not very deep at all. And this is where I'm going to use this nice little scale on my end of my ruler. See? Nice little scale there. So I can get down here, even though I'm an old man. And find 3/16. Like right about there. And I'll set it low and then sneak up on it. Get it just right. So that'll work just fine. And then what's going to happen here is I'll use my miter fence and run that across the dado blade like that. So what I'll do is I'll set the shoulder first, so that'll be back 2 inches from there. And how I do that is I'll set the fence back right there, and again I'm going to sneak up on that, so I think that's just shy of 2 inches. I'm going to take a little piece off the end of it just to set my depth first. What I'll do is I'm just going to run a multiple passes. I'll run a pass and then another pass and then another pass to establish the shoulder, and then that one is done. And then I just turn it around and do that again. Make sure both my rabbets are on the same side of the workpiece. So let's do this. There you have it, 120 center shims for the pallets. Now, you're saying 120. I always like to make a few extra because, as you can see, there are imperfections, you know. And obviously, what I do as I assemble is I'll pick the best out of what I have. Like that one is pretty well flawless. So what I'm going to do is pick the best of what I have as I assemble, give the customer the best, and then as they get worse, then I'll assemble my pallets. And I have 15 only, so we have 5 extras here. And so the worst of the worst will end up on my pallets. If there's a failure, it's just my problem. I don't want customers to have failures because of knots, etc. So with that, I think we're ready for assembly of some pallets. Look at all those pallet plywood there. All these center shims. I got the back shims over in the other side there. We'll get everything up here. I'm going to make a little jig for assembling pallets this time because I have 100 pallets to assemble, so it's going to be worthwhile to spend the time to actually make a jig. So I'll figure out how I'm going to do that, and then I'll show you that part too.